Hello there, scientists. This is Mrs. Geis. Today is Wednesday, February 3rd, 2021. Today we're going to be talking about environmental factors and the impact they can have on our genes and the genes of many different organisms, not just people. Environmental factors strongly relate to gene expression. Gene expression, recall, that is the physical appearance of an organism's traits based on the proteins they produce. Organisms may develop beneficial mutations to assist in their survival. Think back to when we studied the finch beaks using Charles Darwin's research during his time on the Galapagos Islands. If you recall, there were a variety of different habitats on the different islands in the Galapagos chain, and therefore that created a variety of different foods available for the finches. The finches were actually able to evolve and mutate so that they could have beaks that were able to acquire the optimum amount of food in their location. So that was a good example. That's an example of when mutations can benefit an organism and help them survive. But sometimes harmful effects can be caused by the environment as well, and that's what we're going to explore today. So I'm going to dive a little bit deeper with you today than we have in our LearnEd notebook, because I feel like we need to go into a little bit more detail than what we have in our notebook. So how do your genes and the environment interact? Well, we've all learned that space and water, light, and food all impact the health of organisms. These are categorized as environmental factors. And let's talk about also today what impact toxins and pollutants have on our genes. Those are environmental factors as well. The first thing we're going to talk about today is mutagens. Mutagens are pollutants in the environment that enter the body and directly change your DNA sequence. That's very important. An example of a mutagen would be the chemicals in cigarette smoke. We know that they can cause cancer. Some other examples of mutagens would be exposure to radiation, whether it's ultraviolet radiation from natural sunlight or tanning beds, or X-rays that we're exposed to in medical and dental scenarios, as well as airport screening. You want to make sure that you're limiting or protecting yourself. That's why they oftentimes will lay a lead blanket on you or a lead apron while you're at the doctor or dentist having some X-rays done to limit the exposure. We talked about cigarette smoke containing dozens of mutagens. But also think about nitrates and nitrites. These are preservatives that are found in processed meats, such as hot dogs and lunch meats that you find at the grocery store. You can oftentimes, I know I do this, I look for nitrate and nitrite free to be displayed on the packaging before I will purchase it, because I know that these are not good chemicals. These are mutagens and I don't want to ingest them. Barbecuing. Something really fun we all enjoy doing in the summer, but when you use a charcoal grill and you're actually charring the meat to the point of it being dark brown or black and crispy or crusty, you're actually creating mutagens, and you'll be ingesting those mutagens. So it's best to avoid that altogether or use it in moderation. And then finally, benzoyl peroxide, which is an ingredient found in pimple and acne products. Again, it's a mutagen. It's not good. It's an irritant to the skin, but also can have mutagenic effects on your body. Infectious agents such as HPV, which stands for the human papillomavirus, that is a sexually transmitted disease that can cause cancer in individuals. And then the Helicobacter pylori, which is a bacteria that is found in contaminated foods. So you ingest it, it is in those contaminated foods, and it can cause changes to your DNA. So it's important to remember food safety. Next, we're going to talk about gene-to-gene interactions. I want you to think of these as kind of like a chain reaction. These occur when pollutants in the environment do not change your DNA sequence as they do in mutagens, but rather cause a chain reaction that affects the functioning of one gene that then affects the functioning of another gene. So an example would be if an adult consumes too much alcohol. Repeated excessive consumption of alcohol can actually cause a specific gene known as TACE not to produce enough of its protein. The taste protein normally helps other genes to make enough of their proteins, but if it's not being produced, it causes a chain reaction. Too little of these proteins change the level of folate, which is another protein in our blood, and low folate levels can actually cause depression. So do you see how it's a chain reaction? Transcription factors. These are pollutants in the environment that can indirectly affect the DNA sequence by altering transcription factors. These are responsible for starting the process of using genes to make proteins that are needed for different functions of the body, very necessary functions of the body. So here's an example. Stress. We have all had our share of stress in the last year, haven't we? But stress, it's important to manage your stress because stress can change the amount of proteins made by genes involved in your immune system. And we know from health and disease how important having a properly functioning immune system is. So therefore, if your immune system is affected, you can get sick more easily. So there's definitely a correlation between stress and your immune system. And then epigenetics or epigenetics, I've heard it referred to as both. This is when the environment can alter your health by affecting the proteins that turn genes on or off. So an example, half the genes that cause the inherited or familial cancer are turned off when pollutants in the environment affect these proteins. Because they are turned off, these genes are not able to suppress things like tumor formation or the repair of DNA. This can lead to diseases such as cancer, but also the brain development can be affected in young individuals. It can lead to type 2 diabetes, infertility, cardiovascular disease, and a lot of other dangerous diseases. So let's look at some real life examples. We've learned a lot of big words today. Let's put this kind of into some practice. So I've got some scenarios for you, and I want you to kind of think of the different outcomes from the different vocabulary we just discussed. So Sasha has planted some huge trees and shrubs in her backyard to give her privacy from her neighbors. She ended up creating a lot of shade to sit in on hot summer days, which is great. What she didn't realize was that all of that shade was hurting her smaller plants. They aren't able to reach up and get that sunlight. They're supposed to be green and stand straight, but now they're wilting and brown. Was it genes or was it environmental? So let's look at the possible answers. Take a minute and look at these and see what you think. If you guessed the second, you would be correct. The plants did inherit the genes to be green and stand tall, but because of having no sunlight, they ended up drooping and brown. So definitely an environmental impact. Plants inherit traits from their parents. Yes, plants have parents too, including their stem color, leaf shape, flower color, and height. But if the environmental factors impact those traits, that means they are causing changes. In this case, the difference was a negative change. The plants need sunlight to grow tall and healthy, but the other large trees and shrubs were blocking the light. This change caused the plant's environment, this change in the plant's environment caused the traits of the plant to be different. It is it's wilting and brown rather than tall and green. So definitely a problem. All right, here's an interesting scenario. Matt got a new dog for his birthday. He wasn't sure how much to feed him, so he gave him 2 scoops every day. He also didn't like to walk him because it was so hot, so he didn't take him on long walks. When the dog would beg for treats, he always gave in because he was just so cute. When Matt got the dog, he was 35 pounds, but within a few months, he was almost 50 pounds, and he hasn't gotten any taller. The rest of the dogs from the same litter are still 35 pounds. So what do you think was the cause of the weight gain in Matt's dog? If you said he gave him 2 scoops and he didn't take him for long walks and he always gave in giving him treats, you would be correct. The dog had the proper genes for a certain height and weight, but environmental factors such as overfeeding and lack of exercise and too many treats caused an override on those genes and caused obesity in the dog. So let's go back now to our Learn Ed notebook and let's look at page 10. You have a chart that has been given to you at the middle part and bottom part of page 10. And it's asking you to research 5 traits that are linked to environmental conditions and then fill out the chart below. So, for example, a trait could be something as a tumor. That's something that shows up. It's expressed in an individual. It can be in an animal or a human. Is it harmful or beneficial? That would be harmful. And it could be caused by a myriad of different scenarios, but exposure to toxic substances or genetic mutation is definitely a possibility. Okay, brown leaves, as we discussed in the plant, that's what's showing up in the plant. Is there a gene for those brown leaves? No, but with lack of sunlight or lack of water or improper temperatures, these are environmental factors that cause a harmful change to the organism. Lack of sunlight prevents photosynthesis from happening, and therefore the plant will die. So I want you to go ahead and research your own. You are free to use an online search engine and type in environmental factors and genetic expression or expression of genes and see what you can come up with. These are a few that we came up with together in class today, but see what you can come up with. And then we'll talk about this some more tomorrow. Thank you. I hope you have a great rest of your day.